anybody hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay, good. Ed, can you hear me? Seems Ed might be having audio.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Right? Okay, good.
Yep.
Good. There you are.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right, man.
Buddy.
You're looking good there, son.
Thank you, brother. Just trying to keep up, stay in shape. Right.
You can ride that bicycle clear to coffee.
Right.
So,
okay. Okay. Now you can see me better. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Ed, what part of the Twin Cities do you live in?
I live on the south side.
Okay, good. That's what I think Eugene told me, and I used to live there actually, but that's Brooklyn Park over there?
No, Gene lives in kind of the northeast. Brooklyn Park is like north of North Minneapolis, northwest of Minneapolis.
Okay.
I'm south of downtown.
Okay, all right. Well, very good.
About 50 blocks south of downtown.
Okay.
41 First. First step.
Okay. That's Twin Cities, great city. I loved living there at the time. But I spent there in my early 20s.
Who we got?
All right,
the three of us?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
okay. Hi, Ed. I don't know if you remember me from this summer when we interviewed you when Karen Vaughn Marks was on as well.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I'm Zach Van Harris Jr. I'm the research director and the curator for the South Dakota African American History Museum. And
are you from South Dakota? Where are you from?
I'm originally from Michigan. West Michigan, Grand Rapids, but I've been out here for about 12, 13 years.
Okay. I've been to Grand Rapids once.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So it's thank you for making time today. I imagine we won't be able to have Eugene on tonight. Is that right?
Oh, Eugene can join us. He had another commitment. He had a church commitment, so he couldn't. His daughter was doing something at church, and he wanted to be there.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we'll hopefully we'll have on a part 2 segment of this. So
we'll make sure on part 2 because I'll be with it. Yeah. I'm gonna make sure we'll be with it.
Okay. Well, great. So let me see, Zach, you want me to take the lead, kinda, or you want to? We'll go ahead and do our introductions at this point.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do our introductions, and then I do want you to take the lead. But then I'll jump in as well because I have some questions for Ed, and I know that this is just a part 1 of part 2, so we won't deep dive too much.
Okay, that sounds good. That was my thoughts also too. So, Ed, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, my name's Ed Coakley, born and raised in Sioux Falls. Went to Washington High School, Augustana College. Then I moved up here and I worked for IBM as an engineer for 17 years. Then I wanted to own my own business, so I opened a franchise, an Allstate insurance franchise. I did that for 20. And retired from that, sold my book. And after a year, I wanted to do something because I'm a A-type personality. So now I do part-time teaching in St. Paul school system as a part-time teacher.
Good. Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I am Alfred White Jr., also a born resident prior. My childhood was spent there in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Graduated Washington High School, attended the University of South Dakota, and now retired here in the state of Arkansas with my wife of nearly 35 years. I thought this evening, as Zach was saying, he'll certainly have some questions and so forth that'll be included. And we do anticipate a part 2, and the expectation there is that we'll probably do, as Zach said, a deeper dive and so forth. So tonight it'll be kind of loose, a little bit lesser than that. And I thought we'll just kind of make it about you, Ed, for the most part.
That's fine. I can handle it. Right. Yeah, right.
So let me preference my questions by saying this. Again, I had two older sisters, and an older brother, and that's where I thought
Hang on a minute.
Okay.
I'm gonna check to see if it makes a difference if I turn this light off behind me.
Okay.
If that made it better or worse. I guess it didn't really.
Going in the other room. Now I'm good.
Oh, okay. So I was about to say, I didn't have a big brother. So if I would have had a big brother, these are some of the questions I might be asking you, given that, give your address. Remember your address there in Sioux Falls?
1921 South Summit.
Yeah. So we're just blocks apart, actually.
Absolutely.
So let's just start with this general question. And as a senior adult, as we are, you and I certainly, and through your life, how often do you think of Sioux Falls? Is that do you go back and reflect on your time in Sioux Falls?
I think I went back for a high school reunion, my 50th high school reunion. My mom moved away and moved into Minneapolis with me when my dad died. So really wasn't any reason to go back. But the times that I've had gone back, I've reminisced, noticed how much has changed, because it's changed quite a bit. That's been almost 50 years since I was. So the big changes. I was kind of proud of what I saw, because when I left, it was minimal. But as I go back, I see a lot of things that are very, very positive.
Yeah. Okay.
So Ed,
go ahead, Zach.
I am curious about your parents as well, but like Al said, we're gonna make this all about you. So is there something that you would like to share, about your childhood or upbringing in Sioux Falls, good or other, that stands out in your memory? And it doesn't have to be one thing. It can be a few things that come to mind. When you think of Sioux Falls and you think of your childhood and your upbringing in Sioux Falls, what was that like for a young Ed Coakley?
I think the most important thing was my family. When I think about the close family I had, and I had 4 brothers, we're always very close. In fact, my best friends were probably my brothers. Not because we didn't have other friends, but the brotherlyhood that I had with my brothers and other blacks too in Sioux Falls, I thought was very significant. I think in Sioux Falls we kind of had the idea, because of being somewhat isolated, that we had to stick together, and we did that. So there was kind of always an atmosphere of sticking together, being black, recognizing who we are, and doing what we had to do as kids in high school, college.
What elementary school did you go to in Sioux Falls, or did you go to multiple locations?
As related to vacation type things, or when you say multiple locations, you mean?
I'm thinking elementary. What schools did you go to?
I went to Jefferson Elementary School. It's no longer there. And I went to Edison High School and Washington High School. Right. Washington High School is now, I think, a museum or something. No, it's a community center. I think that's what it is now. Last time I was there, I visited, it was a community center.
Let me ask you, because again, we just live blocks apart and so forth. The Coakley name was known out there for me all the time. But here's the one thing I find interesting, is that I never recall the Coakley name being associated in the Coakley boys specifically, being associated with trouble. Why do you think that is? What was the family of Coakley?
I barely heard that question. I'll ask it again, please.
Okay, here we go. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So as I mentioned before, we live essentially just blocks apart, and we went to the same schools, and the Coakley name was known out there. And a lot of times, again, I've said this before, I'm sure, I was thought to be a Coakley, actually, at times, and people would see me and stuff. But here's the thing. Here's the actual question. I never remember hearing trouble associated with the last name Coakley. How did you do that? What was the reason for that in your mind?
Okay, I think the reason was my father. I mean, he made sure that we were involved in sports. That was key. And he also made sure that if we were in sports, we were working. My dad owned the cleaning business. And when I went to college, I had a 1957. I had a bucket, a mop, soap, and wax in the back of my car. And every morning I go down to Charlie's Pizza House. You know where that is? On Minnesota Avenue?
South Minnesota, yeah.
Right. And I would always clean. So Dad, in fact, Dad made sure that we were always working or involved in sports. He made sure that we were busy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He also made sure that, that he had hours. He had boundaries for the kids. I mean, we couldn't stay out after 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I mean, that was it when we were in high school, unless we were involved in some activity. So, the success that I see is, I think my father and the family that and my mom too, the Coakley family always had a tight family. We had tight boundaries. My mom was involved. My mom was a very loving, religious woman. Always had dinner ready. I don't think I did clothes until I was in high school. Always had the clothes ready. Always had our lunch ready. So I think it was the strong family bond that made me who I was and my brothers.
Ed,
okay.
may I ask, what is your parents' names? When we mention folks, let's try to include their first and last name, and then if you have, just for context, if you know when they were born as well.
Okay. My mother's name was Clarice Eugenie Coakley, and my dad was Maurice Henry Coakley.
What years were they born in?
My dad was born in 1913, my mom in 1914.
Were they born in Sioux Falls, or did they?
Okay. No, my mom was born in Jamaica. And to tell you of her background, she had four brothers, and a sister. And when my grandmother came over here, she came to Mason City, Iowa, and worked for a Jewish family as a housekeeper for 2 years, then moved the rest of the family to Mason City, Iowa. Okay. My dad came up here from Campbellsville, Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and moved to Fergus Falls. Now, if you do the history of Sioux Falls, or of Fergus Falls, there was a large group of black folks that came from Kentucky that moved to Fergus Falls, Minnesota. You can do the history on that too. My dad was part of that came, and my dad had died at that time. My dad's father had died at that time. I just looked that up when he was 4. But my grandmother died, or what was my grandma's name? I'll get her name a little later on. It slips me.
Did you ever meet your grandparents? Did you ever go back?
I met my grandmother. Yeah, my grandmother lived with our family for a while too before she passed away. In fact, she moved in with us when we lived on the east side of Sioux Falls. Before we moved to 1921 South Summit, we lived on the east side of Sioux Falls. And my grandmother lived with us there and until she died.
Okay. So were you ever a resident of North Dakota, the apartments per se?
Never were. No.
Okay. But let me go back to your grandparents. So did you all ever vacation back down in Western Kentucky?
No, never did. It's real strange. I've never been to the Black Hills.
Is that
It's on my bucket list. Right.
So have you ever lived south before in terms of southern part of the United States?
Never,
States?
never have.
So you said your mother's side is Jamaican. Did you
My
ever
mother, yep.
you ever go to Jamaica, or you got family?
I've been there twice. Right. I've been to the city that she was from, Anada Bay. It's a small city in on the northern part of the island.
Fascinating.
Anada Bay, St. Mary's Colony.
Okay.
Wow.
So did your parents, your father in particular, did he talk to you about racial relations, tensions, everything that was going on in the country especially in the late 60s? Did you ever have conversations about that?
I mean, he kept us well informed of what was going on. I mean, there was TV at the time, so we knew what was going on. You know, I kind of think that because we were in Sioux Falls, I kind of felt, because there wasn't a lot of black people, I think we were kind of sheltered from that.
Yeah.
But maybe not, as I go back and think about things. Because I think it was more silent than physical, or where it could go and what we could do. That's what I felt. But it was never a threat.
Okay, so there was not any name calling or something personally. Ed, you'd be walking from school or someplace in between classes, whatever it might be, you were never confronted with that?
Yeah, we had some confrontation. There was always a few. My brother Dan was kind of a fighter, the youngest one. And as soon as he'd hear the N-word, he'd take off with somebody. We did hear the N-word, absolutely. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, good.
And another thing that happened in high school, very interesting. When I was a junior, my brother Gene was a senior. Remember who the homecoming king was at that time? Remember Mike Harris?
I remember the name.
Mike and what was Mike's brother's name? Mike Harris and Jim Harris. Remember that family?
Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah, I remember Jimmy. Jimmy was just a year ahead of me.
Football player, played football.
Yeah.
But he was king. And one of the things that we noticed, all the black folks noticed, normally the king and the queen rode in the same car. Yeah. But this was an incident where we found out that the mother and father of the queen, who was white, said, I didn't want my daughter riding in the same car. So, I mean, it was obvious that was going on in Sioux Falls. There were some people that were prejudiced.
Yeah. Kind of a little breakaway, little sidebar. Zach, follow up in terms of what Ed just said. There is a newspaper that Washington Senior High School had. They had a very good newspaper called the Orange and Black. And I know that that stuff is filed away. So you can get copies of it or do research from it. That's something for the interns could research through Washington High School, because I know that's available out there. And Ed, do you remember the newspaper, the school paper at Washington, the Orange and Black? You remember that?
Orange and Black, right?
Yeah. So that'd be a good source of research in terms of homecomings and individual accomplishments, football, sports, all that type of thing.
Right.
Absolutely. Ed, did you said your dad kept you busy. Either you were involved in athletics or you were working. So, and I know you were a worker. Did you also participate in athletics?
Yeah, we all did. Right. My dad kept us in athletics too. My dad was involved when we were in Little League. And he was also involved when we were at Jefferson Elementary School. He was a coach. He coached the team there. And then when we were in high school, he didn't participate, but he was always there, making sure that that we were there and participating in sports. And he was when my brothers and I were participating, he was always there looking out and watching us play. So we were very involved in athletics. Right.
So what was the relations like with your athletic teammates? Being that Sioux Falls was predominantly the majority was white. Was like, did you get along with the other athletes, or was there any like abrasiveness?
There was no conflict at all. We were all athletes, and in fact, some of the folks that I had been friends with were athletes because they were involved in the same sports in middle school and high school together. So there was always those on the side that weren't involved that you could see were a little, biased to what, the black folks. But for the most part, my friends in high school were my same white friends were my same friends that I played basketball with or football with in middle school. So we knew each other. There was no issues.
Some of those relationships, have you retained those over the years? Do you still have friends back from Sioux Falls?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How about a teacher, and by name, if you can recall, a teacher that had an impact on you? Teacher, coach, whatever. Is there any particular individual?
There was a coach in middle school called Don Hancock. Right. There was another coach in high school, Arnie Bauer. He was a basketball coach. He had a son our age too. Yes.
Okay.
Remember him?
Yeah, I do. He was long gone before I got there, but I certainly remember the name. He was a long time, very successful coach there. Okay.
There is also, you might want to research, there's a book about athletes in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. If I have that book, I'll bring that when we get together. There's a lot of information on there. All my brothers are in there. My dad's even in there because they go way back. My dad ran track in Boston High School.
Okay.
Right.
We need to research all of that. And Zach, just a point of reference. Ed will be coming sometime, and we're going to try to coordinate.
What? Okay.
Ed coming back from the Twin Cities.
Okay.
And myself being there, and of course Zach, you there for the video for what you do, always do, and so forth. So we'll anticipate that.
Very good.
Now here comes the good stuff.
Okay.
This is what I've been kind of looking forward to. Again, I'm positioning myself as a young Al, and I love my sisters and so forth. They're my heroes. But again, I always had that void of older brothers. So in that context, dating, how did you kind of navigate the dating? Were there girls that you had crushes on, girls as girlfriends? How did that whole thing work for you?
Let me see. Dating. I really didn't.
If I think about it, I'm your younger brother, and I'm asking you this. What would you tell me?
Okay. All right. Let me think about that too. Right. A lot of times, because of the close families, all the black folks went to church. I think maybe the black women were more like sisters.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of times I don't think we pursued them in that way. Okay. But I know I didn't, but a couple of my brothers did date white women. Mm-hmm. They did. Right.
Okay.
And the first black woman that I got really dated seriously, I married. When I married, and she came to Sioux Falls from New York, and we got together. We dated for a while. After I graduated from college, I moved to Minneapolis, and we kind of kept our relationship going until we got engaged, and she moved up here and we got married. So me personally, the first black woman that I was serious with, I married.
Nothing wrong with that.
And that was a little different because I was from Sioux Falls and she was from the Bronx, New York. So there were some differences, but.
Okay.
So what year did you graduate high school?
Pardon me?
What year did you graduate high school?
1964.
Did you immediately go to college in 1964, or did you take a lap year, or?
I followed my brothers on to college.
What?
My oldest brother was the only Coakley that went away, but the other 3 Coakleys went to Augustana. My oldest brother went to Drake University in Des Moines.
What was your major, or what was your focus in studies at Augustana?
It was math. I studied math because that was the easiest thing for me in high school, was math. And I went on and got a math degree. And then worked for IBM as an engineer for 17 years.
Wow. And so IBM, was that in Minnesota?
It was in Minnesota, yeah.
So pretty much after you graduated high school and you went to Minnesota, you pretty much been a fixture in Minnesota since.
Absolutely. I like it here. There's things about Minnesota that people can complain about, but I like them. There's a lack of black people here. It's not like Detroit or, Chicago. Minneapolis has been very good to me. I moved here in 1968, and there were a lot of large companies. Honeywell was here, Control Data, IBM, 3M. Now, all those companies at that time had quotas because they had government contracts. So when I came up here, being black, I went to 4 employers because I had a technical degree. They wanted to hire me. And that was affirmative action thing that was going on at that time. I don't know if you've read the history of that.
Yeah,
right.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I was just a C student. I wasn't an A or B student. I just got through college, because I had to work. I wasn't the best college student, but I got through it. Right.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I can relate. In terms of your wife was from New York, I think we used to say when I lived up there, we referred to Minneapolis as the mini-app, and because all the night spots and the restaurants and shops and shopping and so forth was all downtown, Hennepin Avenue, and so that, yeah, absolutely. So I know you love sports growing up and so forth. Any other favorite pastimes that you had in Sioux Falls?
One of the things that I do, I'm a member of a fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi. I'm involved in that. I'm also involved with a writing group, Major Taylor. I don't know if do you know who Major Taylor is? Anybody?
It sounds familiar.
No.
Sounds familiar.
It's a black writing group. We ride and we bicycle. So as soon as it gets nice, I'm out 2 or 3 days a week with the Major Taylor, and it's maybe about 10 or 15 guys. Usually 10 show up, and we ride 10, 15, 20, 25 miles.
That's great. That's why you're in such great shape.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons I try to.
Ed, you said you are a Kappa. Yeah. What's your colors?
What's my what?
What's the colors for the Kappa?
Oh, it's red and white.
Oh, so that's exactly what my uncle is. My uncle's a Kappa. He's in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michigan State. He probably went over to Michigan State or University of Michigan and one of those.
No, he was at Western Michigan Broncos.
Right.
Yeah. He's a Kappa man. He let everybody know that too.
Right. I'm not that profound.
Do you think, Ed, in your Sioux Falls days and growing up there, do you think you had more or less opportunities?
There was always the opportunity for education. I never, let me see. Yeah, I always had the opportunity for education. That was always available. Okay. Employment, I always was employed, but that's because my father probably kept me busy working in his business. So, I really can't answer if I was. One thing I didn't want to do and didn't try to do is after graduating from college, trying to get a job in Sioux Falls. That might have been a challenge at the time. I don't know. Might have been.
Yeah. I think it may have been. Yes.
Yeah, might have been.
How many siblings did you have altogether?
I had 3 siblings. The oldest was Maurice, then Eugene that lives here, and then me, and then Dan. Dan lives in California, Oakland, California, the youngest brother.
Where's Maurice at?
Mo passed away 2 years ago.
That's
he
what I
lived in
thought.
Atlanta, and then moved to Florida, and then passed away in Florida. Right.
Okay.
So when you're and rest in peace to your brother Mo. When your parents passed and transitioned, was that in Sioux Falls?
No, my dad died in Sioux Falls, but my mom moved to here, lived with me for a while. And when I couldn't take care of her, I at that time I didn't have a spouse. My brother from Atlanta, that lived in Atlanta at the time, and his wife came and said, "Hey, won't you move mother to Minneapolis, from Minneapolis to Atlanta?" So my mom moved from Minneapolis to Atlanta and lived there until she passed away.
Okay, so your father he was born in
Kentucky, Campbellsville, Kentucky.
He was born in Kentucky, but he was buried here in Sioux Falls.
He's buried in Sioux Falls, yeah, Mount Pleasant.
And your mother, she's buried in Atlanta, or did she get?
No, she's buried. We cremated her and then buried her next to my father.
Okay.
Grave.
And
if you look up Find the Grave, you'll see all the history for my father. Where he came from. Find the Grave. You ever looked up Find the Grave?
What's the name of the cemetery that they're located in Sioux Falls?
It's Mount Pleasant.
Mount Pleasant, yeah, Mount Pleasant. In fact, most of the black people were buried there, weren't they?
Yes.
Yes. We're finding that out. Yes.
Yeah, right.
And that's because of your mention of that the last time we kind of spoke. We've been researching through that. And of course, we'll have to, Zach, Phyllis, Ed, if you remember, my sister Phyllis, she's come across some photographs here recently.
Right.
It looks like around the year 19. It's pictures of St. John Church and members standing outside the church. And we'll have to get you to take a look at that.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I sent that out.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah.
That was
on there? Okay. I was on the screen that all that, and the comments came.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Good. This is kind of a personal question of my interest, and then I'm just going to see how you respond to this. Do you like music? Do you like music?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of music. Quite a bit.
Okay. How has the Sioux Falls experience?
I'm a Spotify member. Right.
Spotify.
Okay. So, your Sioux Falls, how has your growing up in Sioux Falls, how has that influenced your musical taste over the years?
Okay, I've always, when I was in Sioux Falls, who did I listen to? Who was the big name in 1964? Who was the music that I listened to in Sioux Falls? Buddy Miles. You know who Buddy Miles is?
Yep.
Okay, sure. Oh yeah. He was
Buddy Miles was kind of a rock drummer.
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix. I was influenced by Jimi Hendrix. Who else did I listen to? Right. I listened to the Beatles, but I mean only because they were popular. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
and when I've always had a love for music. I like music. Music content. I listen to a lot of I listen to a little of everything. You feel what I'm saying?
Okay. See, yeah. So I find that fascinating because I'm the same way, and that has a lot to do, obviously, with my Sioux Falls background. So, I get a lot of jest and teasing and stuff from my wife and other, other friends and family members because I like rock and classical rock and from Fleetwood Mac to Louis Blues to R&B and Marvin Gaye, all of that, and right into some classical stuff. So and I attribute that to my Sioux Falls background.
Okay.
And what's really funny, my wife is from Western, actually Eastern Arkansas, and about an hour away from Memphis. So out of Memphis, they had WDIA, all the rich R&B, associated with that. So, so anyway, point being is that I'm just, I'm like you, Ed, and I just wanted to kind of see, how you would respond to that.
So one thing that I'm gathering from multiple interviews from just different folks that have long, rich history in Sioux Falls, and some have gone on and moved away, but they still have remnants and roots of just that history here, is that collectively, it seemed like the consensus is that there was a strong family structure of like the principles and the morals and the values of get your education, go on and get a degree, work hard, and diversify your palette of the world and to kind of broaden your perspective. It seemed like if clearly there was Jim Crow, there was some prejudice and discrimination and things like that, but you didn't get fixated on those hurdles of this is what society is bringing my way. It's almost like it's there, but I'm not gonna, let that slow me down. I got things to accomplish in life. So it just seemed like that type of resilience is like the consensus from a lot of the interviews that I've been coming across from folks from Sioux Falls that got that history. They can go back into these decades that we're looking at, these time periods. So it's very fascinating to hear.
There were marches. We had marches in Sioux Falls. Al, were you involved in that?
No.
Which marches are you talking about? What year?
Was part of the NAACP at the time. We'll get more information on that. My brother Gene knows her name. She was a white Jewish lady, and she was involved with the black movement. There was a movement. I was kind of undercover, but I forget what and why we were marching, but we did march in Sioux Falls. I don't know if it was when King died. I think it was I can't quite remember, but we'll get some more information on that. When you talk to my brother Gene, he has the lady's name, and I remember my youngest brother Dan was very vocal about that, and he was one of the ones that marched at that time. I think I had to work or something, but we had a march.
Do you remember if you was it post high school? Were you in college at the time? Was it after college?
I think it was in high school. Okay. It was before 64, maybe 61, 62.
Okay.
It was before King died, but I don't know what we were marching for at that time. Because I'm pretty sure it wasn't King's death, because King's death happened when we were when I was, I think, a junior in 63. Does that sound about right?
68, actually.
68.
Well, I was in college, 68. That's right. I was in college. Right.
Was it, because there was a lot of things going on around the country. You got Emmett Till, you got JFK, you got, there was a...
Right. Might have been one of those. Right.
And so,
can I ask a
yes.
question? What's the temperature
in Sioux Falls?
No, what's the temperature of black people in Sioux Falls? Are they organized? What are black people doing? As related to, are there organizations? Is there NAACP?
Yes.
What's going on?
Yeah, there's the NAACP. There's which just started, the South Dakota Black Chamber of Commerce. There is some like grassroots organizations as well. There was a few different grassroots groups, and some of them have dissolved now. But like Establishing Sustainable Connections was one. Conscious Youth Solutions, which is like workforce development for like youth of color. But that's also dissolved. But yeah, there's the NAACP presence right now, which kind of like a roller coaster. It'll start and then it'll kind of fizzle and go up again years later. So this is like another reiteration of the NAACP. And I think they have like 75 members or something like that.
Oh, really?
And it's diverse, but the executive leadership board is all Black. And then, there's the South Dakota African American History Museum, which I'm on the board for. There is, on campus, there's a lot of different like Black student unions. There's a lot of different Journey Scholars at Augustana as a BIPOC organization. So, but I think it's the temperature, as far as culture wise in Sioux Falls, I think it's probably similar to how it's always been, where there is groups, of Black folks that kind of come together. There's the churches and things like that. But then there's also groups that just are individuals that just kind of go off and do their own thing because it's not Detroit, it's not Baltimore, it's not Chicago, they're not faced with the same type of, it's there, but it's not as much as like a lot of other places where it's prevalent around the country. But I'm not a monolith. I'm not, I'm still kind of new here in a sense, but that's just kind of what I've been observing. Al, what do you think, Al? I mean, I know when you and your sisters came to visit, you were only here for a few days, but like, what do you think the temperature of Sioux Falls is? Is it, from your perspective?
Well, I'd say that, there's obviously much more diversity. I think there's a pretty good level of sensitivity. And even the whites, actually, I had friends that I still stay in touch with and very close with. But I know you had the Black Matters movement, the Black Life Matters movement underway, and there were protests with that and so forth. So there's activity there. Now, Ed, I don't think the intellectual capacity, the intellectual aspect of it is there as compared to we are coming along. Zach's not the example here that I'm trying to use. Zach's very intuitive individual and brings a high degree of intellect to any situation. But I think just in general, and this is really across the country, people aren't as plugged in. They'll certainly protest, but the question becomes, do they vote? That type of thing. But the overall mobilization, I'm not really sure that things is happening.
You think being a red conservative state has something to do with that? I'll fill that out.
Well, yeah, it's because I live in a red conservative state right now, and it doesn't get much better than Arkansas.
Okay.
I think go ahead and say this, and just the chips lie where they may. I think the new slavery today in these red states are the white evangelists. These state governments and so forth, they do whatever they want, and in terms of surplus budgets and stuff, but nothing's getting done, and these people paying taxes, doing whatever, just blindly following these folks. So that's how I see it there. I think Sioux Falls, and then I'm kind of, and Ed, I'll ask you this. It served me well. And I talked to my sisters with that same narrative, or, I asked them their impression, and they all have the same. So Ed, would you agree with that Sioux Falls, that experience of growing up there has served you?
Yeah, served me well, absolutely. I think a lot of times I felt I was sheltered because I didn't have a lot of Black people around, but I think that was to our advantage. Not saying that Black people, but there was less things to get in trouble with, because we were, it was a small town. When you're from a small town, you're not exposed to a lot of things that you would be if I was raised in Minneapolis or Detroit, Grand Rapids type of thing.
Right. And it's almost like it's not that many. So if you do something, everybody gonna hear about it. So you're gonna put a spotlight on you, and you don't really want that. So you almost like you have a choice, but you almost don't have a choice. You got to be on your P's and Q's, especially if you come from a household that's like, hey, we ain't playing that mess. Don't you be going out there making us look crazy. So
that's a good thing. Right.
But I agree with you, Al, in the sense that the intellect is probably, because like from the research I'm coming across, I'm like, wow, like it was small but mighty, back in those pioneering days, the trailblazing days that you all grew up in. And now, even though there's probably more Black folks here now than it was back then, it's almost like taking the foot off the gas. Like there's no sense of urgency or emergency. It's kind of like, oh, it ain't that bad or whatever, but when George Floyd died, there was a big turnout here in Sioux Falls, a really big protest, like it was everywhere. But almost a year to the date before George Floyd died, there was a man that got shot in Sioux Falls named George Renzi Jr., a Black man. Police officer shot him. I was one of the organizers to help get like legislators, Black leaders, even law enforcement. I didn't invite the law enforcement officers, but like some of the Black leaders, they knew them, so they invited them. But so we had a community conversation, and so we got NAACP involved. At the time, this was a different NAACP, not today's chapter here in Sioux Falls. But what happened was that after the research and the investigation, George Renzi Jr., they said that he had like some chemical imbalances, some intellectual,
mental instability of some sort.
Right. And so he had like a history. Anyway, he charged at the police officers right at the county administration building with either like a broken glass or a knife. And the officer didn't kill him, shot him in the leg to just like stop him and slow him down or whatever. And so like that was kind of like the justification. And then I think that kind of appeased a lot of the communities, like, well, at least it's not like, if this was Memphis or Dallas or anywhere else, it wouldn't have been the leg shot. It would have been, a put you down forever shot. And so it was a pivotal time for Sioux Falls to kind of like, determine what this city is going to be going forward. And then a year later, almost on the nose, George Floyd happened, and that was a big turnout. But so yeah, we have had some issues here in my short tenure of being here that I've seen and I've been a part of, and curious myself personally of just the temperature and where it can go going forward. I also do like the fact that, and Al, I think you touched on it as well, is that it's not just Black folks, it's not just, BIPOC, people of color. You also got white folks that are, progressively, joining in as well. So a lot of the protesters, for example, like when George Renzi Jr. got shot out here, half the room was white. And then when we had the protest for George Floyd, probably 2/3 of the crowd was white. It was more white folks than, people of color, it seemed like, from the optics of it. And so it's just like the community is kind of saying like enough is enough. We can't tolerate this oppression. We can't tolerate this, this targeting. One thing that I have noticed being on the outside looking in, coming from Michigan, is that when I first got here, I was all tensed, and whenever I see a police officer or whatever pull up behind me, or I see him in my rear view, I'm like, I just know they're gonna profile me, and they'll drive right past me, but they'll turn the corner, and sure enough, they'll be pulling over, or talking to a bunch of different indigenous individuals. And so I learned real quickly, unfortunately, the target is heavily on the indigenous community back, is what I've realized. And I'm thinking like it might be because of the long history of these two demographics being around each other for centuries or whatever. And then we come in and we come in as just a small pocket. And it's like, oh, we're not big enough to worry about. We're still going to keep an eye on you. But, you know, we got our eye focused over on here on this other demographic that's, you know, won't come up off their land, you know, like because we're trying to colonize them or whatever. So that's just some thoughts that I wanted to put out there.
Yeah. Well,
I
let me
can
mention this. Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
The threat to white folks were American Indians in Sioux Falls, I always thought. And that's who they kind of picked on, I thought.
Right.
I mean, that's history. That's been forever.
Right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Let me mention this real quick in terms of my history and, you know, living in large city areas and so forth. The thing that's going to make a difference, the one thing that Sioux Falls lacks, that other larger cities have, are the large urban churches. What do you call them?
The mega churches?
Anyway. Yeah, thank you. That's the word I was looking for, the mega churches and so forth. And through the mega churches, they organize, you get people. The church I attended in Dallas has something like 18, 19 judges, elected judges in the congregation. And the key is getting people registered to vote. And you start voting these judges in and other leadership areas and so forth. And that's where you really start control, because it'll be these judges in which kids are brought up, in front of and so forth. They're the ones that'll make the decision about their future. So you got to get out there and vote and get to know. They need to have political forums where you can ask these politicians, pertinent questions about diversity and other issues impacting black, red, yellow, whatever the situation might be. So that's, if you don't vote, it's not going to happen. You can complain all you want, but things aren't to get done.
Right.
I don't know. That's about the end of my questions. Zach, you got anything else you might want to add?
Ed, thank you so much for your time. I really, and I mean this with all sincerity, thank you for your time. And I really hope that we can do this again. I hope that Eugene can also join us, because I want to really go into like a deep dive in the family dynamic, just the history. I know we just kind of touching the surface, but like, the thing is that African American history, just the narrative, just oral stories, this documentation, this preservation is not being done. This work is not being done. We're not telling our stories. And when we're dead and gone, if someone else tell our story, they might tell it, as my grandma would say, you could tell your story the best way. Only you can. If someone else tell your story, it might not be the way you want your story to be told. It might not be, it might not be your story at all. They just, fabricate it. So while we have our voices and we are around, we should take advantage of telling our story and our family story, and telling it with accuracy. And it's not just for us, and it's not just for our family, but it's for generations to come as well. To build upon just that heritage, just the Black heritage overall. So,
absolutely. And Ed and I talked about it. I told Ted about certainly the Siouxland Heritage Museum. And I think, Ed, you mentioned that you have some interest. Is that correct? As we talked about preserving, you said you had all kinds of archived material from your mother.
Right.
So we want to see if we can facilitate.
Let me ask you, what's going to be the end product of all this?
So the end. Go ahead, Al. You want me to go, or you?
Well, we can do a little bit of both.
Okay.
Well, you can go ahead.
Okay. So
let me just mention this. I'm not really sure that there will be a defined end product. The history will just continue to grow, and I think it's our obligation, or certainly part of our mission, to make sure that history is documented and restored. And so this will be kind of the we might have a foundation here, but we'll just kind of be building that. Zach, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with it. Is the whole fact is that the deliverables, Ed, is that walking away from this, we have some documentation. We would like to have a documentary where, I mean, we don't have the budget, we don't have the grants, we're doing all of this out of pocket. We're doing this all out of, just for the love of wanting to do this type of work. But we also getting these collections, whatever anyone has in their possession, you get a digitized copy. And so now, once we have it all housed in one place, we can fine tooth it and say, okay, this is the story from this family, from this family, from this family, and then you piece it together, and this is the Black community of Sioux Falls during a certain time period. And so now we have a gallery space. Now we have something archived that we can look back on. We can pull from resources and actually know certain history. Where did we live? Where did we go to church? Where did we go to school? Where did we eat? Where did we party for leisure and things like that? Where did we go for the family picnics and things like that? That is just not talked about in history books. It's not talked about, and just even like not only Sioux Falls, but in South Dakota history. I went to the Capitol, to, the Heritage Center there, and they got a bunch of different like cultural exhibits. They even got a KKK exhibit, but they don't have no black exhibit. And so that kind of like rubbed me the wrong way, because it's like, if you got the KKK in your museum, who was the KKK oppressing? Why were they here? We know it's synonymous, so it's like, so a part of the story, a part of the narrative is missing. You got some chapters missing. You don't got the Black experience included in your center. And so like on their website, it says the future belongs to the storytellers. So you saying our future, because we're not storytelling it, we're not a part of the future. So that put me on, that put a batter in my back ever since I came across that years ago, to like, this work got to be done, because no one's lining up to do it. And the folks that will do it, they're going to tell our story not the way we want it to be told, and it won't be accurate. So we need to put some skin in the game. So that's why I'm here.
Have you went to the Black churches? Are they wanting to be involved in this?
Say it again.
I know there's the Black churches. Have they given you any input financially?
Even they're in Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
You said financially?
Financially, or giving you a space to meet in at least, right?
You know what though? I think that because we have a context report, a conference coming up in May, and I think that we're doing that for the city of Sioux Falls. So I think that's going to put a lot of knowledge or light shine on what we're doing, and I'm hoping that allows folks to come out of the woodworks that want to participate. How can we get involved? How can we donate? How can we volunteer? Because when we first started, you know how the things go when you got a project and you're like, oh man, this is going to be great, let me see if such and such want to get involved. And if you wait around, you're like, man, I want to get this off the ground in a month. But then you look up 6 months later, because you're waiting for, several other people or several other organizations. It'll drive you insane. So I try to move with like urgency and emergency to like, get this type of work done. And it doesn't have to be perfectly pretty and all that stuff. It just need to be done. I actually kind of want people to be like, oh, your video isn't the best. Well, you guess what? Of course, I'm on a shoestring budget out of my own pocket. So it could be better if you got something to say. Go ahead and toss some dollars to this project so we can make it look how you think it should look. So we just got to get it done. I think 75% of the work is just showing up. just show up and be a part of
Right.
it, participate. It don't.
Right.
You want to have this perfectionist thing, it's never going to get done. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ed, what do you teach at this particular subject at the high school there, or at the school you teach at?
I go to various schools. Just depends. Math, the sciences, special ed, right? And the way the schools are set up right now, I mean, it's a real easy job. You just, you get there, you get to interrelate with other people and kids. So that's the important thing for me,
And how's that How's that relationship with the kids? You feel comfortable?
Kids are different nowadays. Kids are like our age. They're different, and you have to, I mean, I can tell stories, but we don't have time to. But it's a different experience. You know what I mean? And it's not like when we were in school. All the kids have laptops right now. They have, which makes my job easier. The lesson plan's there. The testing is there, right? But it's different.
That makes me think of one thing, Ed. If there was one thing that you can change about Sioux Falls from your, 21, 22 years being in Sioux Falls, is there anything that you wish would have been different?
More black people, right? More culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would you agree, Al, on that one?
Well, yeah, absolutely that, certainly.
Right.
But, mine would probably be more personal in terms of my relationship with my dad. I just did not relate to him well during a period of time, especially my high school years and so forth. I was kind of independent, wanted to do hard-headed, and wanted to do things my own way. And in the course of that, I just didn't show the proper amount of respect. And I always felt bad about that. And my dad was my best man at our wedding. And so I was just trying to show him that I really appreciated him, not just as a man, as my father. And, I had a great deal of love and affection for him. So I wish I could have been better at that. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the big
Thanks for sharing that, Al. That's actually pretty deep. Ed, how was your relationship with your father?
My dad was kind of he laid down the rules in the household, and if we broke them, I mean, he'd attack. He would discipline us one way or the other. So I mean, I think I was at kind of a healthy fear of my father. Fear of that. And sometimes my mom would kind of, because my dad was so strict, would kind of pick up for the boys a little bit sometimes. More, you too hard on those boys. I hear my mom would say, right.
Yeah. Well, my dad used to say the same thing in terms of being hard on me.
Yeah.
But they knew what the world was out there.
Absolutely.
How you had to be and be prepared for it. So, that was his motivation a lot of times. But I guess that, I kind of lost my discourse at times. Where I got too involved with the sports, the friendships, of white classmates and stuff. I kind of I lost my identity for a second. And then I had to get that back. So.
Wow.
So that's what I was kind of faced with.
Ed, do you have children?
I had a child that passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I married a girl from Sioux Falls, Augustana College, came from the Bronx. Married 10 years, and then I've been single ever since. Happily single.
So you're a bachelor.
I'm a bachelor, right.
Cool.
On the way to fly. No, I'm not.
But again, Ed, we really appreciate the time you've invested in this.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate the time you invested in this with us, Ed, and I think that's all the questions.
I'll make sure next time Gene gets involved. I'll go to his house. We'll do it from his house.
Okay.
Yeah, part 2 will be coming.
When is some and I guess we can, you and Al will probably talk on the phone, but we can also correspondence in text or email. But just wondering, like, I guess we have to go off of Gene and see what's a good time for him, so I can let Dr. Will Wright know as well.
Oh, he's home every day. I mean, anytime after 6. And if you give me a time ahead of time, I'll make sure that he's there. And if there's a conflict, I'll get back to you.
All right. Is Eugene retired?
He's retired. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
But he's not at full capacity. He has some problem walking.
Oh, okay.
Some other issues going on with him right now. So.
Okay.
But Eugene wants to be fully engaged in my conversations with him. It's great stuff. He's got some good information.
All right.
And if you want my brother Dan involved, I mean, I can make a telephone call too.
That
would be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, I'd love to talk to Dan. I really would.
Let me see if he has any interest, and I'll coordinate it. I'll take him to coordinate it.
Okay.
Time is not. Anybody can sit down for an hour and talk about history.
Right.
I mean, it's important, isn't it?
Yeah. We just going down memory lane.
Hey, Ed, it's from my perspective, it's interesting to know the difference between your brothers. Now, I didn't really talk. I'm sorry. I don't think I ever talked to Maurice, but I can kind of see between you and Eugene, and then Danny. You all have your precise or different personalities.
Everybody, absolutely. Yeah. That happens with families. Everybody's different.
Yeah. That's good stuff. All right, my brother. Think the world of you and your family, and always look forward to the next opportunity.
I enjoyed the conversation. We'll do it again, definitely.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right.